Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to Eons of Battle, and today I'm going to build an entire 40k gaming board. 10th edition is right around the corner, and I want to introduce you guys to our June terrain, Grimdark Modular Trenches, the next best thing in battlefield readiness. And we had so many arguments here at Eons of Battle. Do we go chaotic or do we go imperial? Chaos or imperial? Chaos or imperial? It almost tore the channel apart. But finally, we decided, ¿por qué no las dos? Both chaos and imperial. I'm gonna build half of this board chaos, half of this board imperial, and it's not just going to be a series of trenches. I wanna build some actually huge pieces of terrain because we don't have a lot of really big terrain, and I wanna get messy with some foam. All of these trenches are made out of 3 or 4 pieces, and they all fit together perfectly. Just a little bit of glue. This one's clogged. This one's also clogged. This one's empty. Now we're in business. Hold it steady for a few seconds and then boom. Now I got to assemble some shapes. I need all the curves. Real terrain has curves. I gotta glue this sucker together. And usually I would be worried about the structural integrity of a big 3D printed sculpture, but luckily this is all printed in beautiful Sculpting resin, a very tough, rugged, slightly bendy resin. And if you want to give Sculpting resin a try for yourself, you can follow the link in the description below. So this one donut is going to be its own piece of terrain with a lovely little mountain in the middle. A chaotic mountain with a chocolatey center. Now I want an imperial shape, and I don't just want to do an imperial donut, I want to do an imperial pill shape. That'll be the shape, the old imperial A. A for Adeptus. It's like an episode of Sesame Street. Uh-oh, it's really on there. These 2 pieces are gonna make up my huge terrain pieces, and then the rest of these pieces are all gonna make the crisscrossing of trenches. Right now, the super glue is doing its job holding them together, but really they're gonna need a foot. They're gonna need a flooring just for everything to sit on. And for that, I'm gonna need some plastic. I've decided not to sell my home, so I can now cut this up. Gotta slide this under there like I'm putting a pizza in the oven. There we go. Now, a lot of places will sell plastic card meant for hobbyists, but really all it is this. This is just a thin sheet of PVC, and this was like $4 for a nice big sheet of it. So if you're ever in the need for some plastic card, get yourself a for sale sign, for sale by owner, beware of dog. There's so many options. I could use super glue to keep this all down, but hot glue is gonna be a lot more tenacious, and I like to work quick. There we go. Those are some big ol' terrain pieces. Now I get to work on those mountains. What I want is right in the middle, I want some nice raised hills to place these turrets. We have Imperium turrets for the good guy side, and we have Chaos turrets for the back. And if you guys like the look of these turrets, they're available in our welcome pack when you subscribe to our Patreon or you subscribe to us on our My Mini Factory tribes. Time to cut some foam. Now, I could have done this before I glued the bottoms on. That might have actually made this a little bit easier, but I'm just gonna start hacking until it fits. I am liking that. The foam doesn't leave the prettiest finish, so I'm gonna add a little bit of cork. I've been using a lot of this. This is 1/2-inch thick cut cork for cork boards. Like you'd put this in your office to put pictures of like your family or your dog or your Warhammer figures. But this stuff works really well if you break it as pieces of natural looking rock. Now it's putty time. This is Sculpt-A-Mold. It's basically shredded toilet paper and plaster. Ooh, and gloves would be a great idea. Just add water, and now I can begin sculpting and molding. Once this stuff starts to harden, you can really mold it however you want. It's a lot like if you're making cheeseburgers. Well, I didn't work fast enough to get this onto the chaos half, and so I am now out of Sculpt-A-Mold. Just kidding, I bought 11 pounds of this stuff. On the Imperial side, I wanted it to look really natural, like they just got some stonemasons to cut themselves some spots for the turrets to go. But for this Chaos side, I wanted it to look like Chaos Corruption literally brought some obelisks out of the earth for them to rest on. I laid that Sculpt-A-Mold on there pretty thick, and it's gonna take a while to dry, but it has already set, so now I can apply my sand, and I wanna try a little experiment. Typically I would just use sand, but recently I discovered this stuff. Rolleiflex. It is horrible. This is a product that you're meant to mix into paint, and it kind of gives your walls a really ugly sandy texture. You see it a lot on older houses, and it is horrible. But I think it is just like gypsum powder that has been rolled into tiny pellets, and you can buy different weights of this in the normal sand grains I use, and it's very light, so I wonder if this will actually be better than sand in a lot of ways. I've got wood glue, my favorite sand holder downer. I just want to give this a little try. It looks pretty nice. Only the stuff that is directly touching the glue is stuck down and the rest of it is kind of sprinkled on. But I think I'm gonna mix up a little glue and water and spritz that over the top. Interested to see how this turns out, but I think for the Chaos one, I'll actually go back to sand and then I can compare. Sand is definitely easier to apply, but it is pretty heavy and it gets knocked off pretty easily. Really excited to see what happens with this stuff. Now the mist is gentle enough not to knock my little dusty sands around. And I'm gonna apply this as thick as I can. All right, that is properly wet. Now I can't do any painting until it's dry, so I'll wait. All right, it's been about 8 hours and now it should be dry. Let's see if this little experiment was at all useful. The little stuff feels pretty good. Ooh, uh-oh. It doesn't seem like it's stuck at all, sort of, to the 3D prints. So this stuff is basically like Kellogg's cornflakes. And I have a suspicion that the little bit of it that touches another surface, that's what glues, but then it can just tear itself right off because it's so porous and soft. But it did stick well to the porous paper mache material. Let's look at this sand over here. I mean, the sand is the sand. We all know it and love it. Yeah, I could stop a bullet. It all looks perfect. I'm not breaking out my super expensive paints for this, just a little apple barrel, because all it needs is to be sealed. Ooh, although I don't dislike this color. I've been wanting to do this since I glued everything together. Put the actual guns on the terrain. Big glob of hot glue. Oh, look at it bubble up from the still slightly damp paint. Burning. I love the smell of burning in the morning. Ah, oh, look at it. Ah, oh, straight out of Dawn of War. I love it. Now the Imperium built theirs in a slightly smarter way, where this turret and this turret, they can shoot and miss each other. Where the Chaos, let's just say it's a little bit more chaotic because they can shoot each other. But they never would, They're on the same team. And now everything will be primed in 3, 2, 1, primed. Just a black prime, but sometimes I try to get a little fancy with the prime, but right now I want my shadows all taken care of and then I want to lighten it all up. What I'm thinking for this landscape is a Martian desert. Actually, this Martian desert. And on top of a red Martian desert, I think I want all of the trenches to be kind of a light gray blue. I think that'll really pop on top of the red. In terms of order of operation, I gotta paint the trenches first so that any red that spills onto them looks like natural dust that would have been kicked over. Now moving on to a much brighter blue-gray. Already coming together, a little dry brushing, and I'm really hoping I can get away with a big old dry brushing, but if it comes to it, I will use one of these. Giving me what I want. It's probably because this brush has such long bristles. There we go, those are some trenches. So great to have some real paintbrushes hanging around. Now for the spicy red planet. Now for a little orange highlighting. My colors are right, but my saturation is too dark. I think a little dry brushing and a second coat of orange will do the trick. Ink has never let me down before, and I think it'll be just the thing. Now I feel like I got my nice bright oranges, but I've missed a little bit of red. Luckily I have more ink. It looks a little brown to my eye, but the real test, I can live with that. Whew. Now I could call it done now. Basically, I mean, I've got all of the trenches done. I've got my nice red desert. However, some of you might have noticed this humongous box of bits right here. This is only the beginning. Although they look pretty good naked, the decorations are definitely gonna be the thing that makes this terrain go from good to great. And speaking of great, you know where you can get your hands on this great terrain? That's right, our Patreon. This whole set is available to our supporters at the EOB terrain tier, along with some Dawn of War inspired pieces to fill out your gaming boards and an STL welcome pack. All hosted through Comics, Games, and Things. You can get this set through our Patreon or subscribe to our tribes over on My Mini Factory. This set comes with pipe organs that wrap around the trenches and allow the Imperial hymns to be blasted across the battlefield. Armor panels filled with skulls, the religious symbol of the Imperium, window plates and scoops, torches and braziers of various sizes, and for the chaos half, chaotic books, symbols and spikes, and so much more. This floating head speaker thing is my favorite. The eyes and ears of the Imperial command, from which they can blast out orders at ear-piercing decibels to the front lines. All these bits and bobs will put the trenches into context. I test fitted all the parts without gluing them down to see which parts I like the look of for these Martian trenches. I only want to paint the bits that I need. The rest can go into my bits bin to decorate other models and bases. I took all these decorations and stuck them down to some double stick tape attached to paint sticks. I asked the employees if I can have a couple of these every time I go to the hardware store because they're great to have around for mini painting. I stuck down all the bits, leaving enough room in between so the paint could get in there and cover all the surfaces. And then it was time to load up the airbrush. All these bits will become metallic gold, and I decided to skip the primer. I'm not really concerned with getting a perfectly smooth finish, and I don't have a gloss primer anyway, which works best underneath metallic colors. My favorite gold paint actually starts with a silver paint, white aluminum from Vallejo. After that comes the secret sauce, orange ink. I loaded this into my airbrush and dusted it on. I can control how saturated I want my gold to be by how much paint I allow to land on top of my silver. And this tinting gave me another idea. Maybe these trenches don't just have to be gray. I loaded up a green speed paint into my airbrush and sprayed this over the Imperial trenches. This paint is transparent, so it'll leave all the layers of paint showing through while tinting the surfaces a color. Green for the quote-unquote good guys, and for the baddies, I went with a magic blue. Red is the classic chaos color, but because this terrain is already on a Martian landscape that's already red, blue is gonna stand out nicely. And with all the spikes that'll be on this, it'll look suitably chaotic. I am liking the colors. The colors were a good choice. I really like speed paint through the airbrush because it just tints, and now everything is looking lovely. It's time to decorate it. This terrain pack is bringing me back to memories of my childhood, playing with my Barbies. It's all about the accessories. It's part of the juxtaposition of Warhammer, ugly brutalist war architecture with pockets of churchiness showing up everywhere. And for the Chaos half, it's all about the spikes. Anywhere that could fit a spike got a spike, and I mixed up a gold paint to get the spikes on the turrets to match. This thing is becoming dangerous to handle. It is very, very pointy. Now all of the beautiful gilded gold elements I need to blend into the original elements, and I think the way I'm gonna do that is with some good old-fashioned speed paint. For the Emperor's Finest, I want a cold, desaturated, ugly gold, and to do this I took a black speed paint and smeared this over all the accessories. Laying it on really thick on the bottom half of each component, and then coming back in with some water on the top half to thin it out and create a gradient. I find all sorts of uses for speed paint, and with a little water, it can become a decent wash. It also slows the drying time a little, making it nice and controllable. The Imperium side of this trench is a lovely desaturated military green. For the Chaos half, I'm thinking something much more vibrant. I love the bright gold, but I need to work it into the dark blue color so it's not such a stark transition. And for this, brown and blood red. The brown will keep the saturation of the yellow gold while darkening it, and while this coat is still wet, I shoved some red paint in there and used a watery clean brush to blend it into the brown. Not everywhere, just patchy blood, doing the same water trick to keep things dark on the bottom and light on top. This tarnish layer is representing a mixture of grime, dirt, blood, and evil. And speaking of evil, the evil chaotic books. I sprayed these gold along with the rest of the decorations, but I want to spend a little time on the pages of the book. Base coating them with a light tan, and then for the script work, I used a pen with a brush-like tip to paint on lines that run straight across the pages, but are a little wiggly to be the text. I glued these to the sides of the Chaos monoliths rising from the red Martian earth, and I'm almost done, but Chaos can always use a bit more blood. I like Games Workshop's Blood for the Blood God for my blood effects, but I'm going to need a lot for this terrain, so I mixed my own with some red and brown speed paint and a generous dollop of gloss medium. I dipped my lucky toothbrush into the mix and dragged my fingers across the bristles so they would spring back and launch the paint into spatter. The closer I do this to the surface, the tighter the splat becomes. It's done. I have been building kill team boards one after another, but I'm excited to get back to my roots. Full-scale Warhammer 40k. When I was a kid, I played with my minis on a ping pong table full of VHS tapes and red solo cups, but if only little Jay could see me now. I want to let you guys in on a little secret. I never played a single game of 9th edition. I played the spit out of 6th edition, 7th edition, and 8th edition was my jam. Early 8th edition with the compendiums where I had the rules for every single faction, and it seems like history is repeating itself with 10th edition because any day now, all of the compendium rules are gonna drop, and I'm gonna be playing every army I have, every single faction, on this terrain, on the trenches. I can't wait to absolutely fill all of this stuff up with my Necrons. Crisscrossing the battlefield in a wonderful network of Gothic trenches, and these pieces. These were really, really fun to make. I almost want to make some more. It's getting to the point where I don't know how much bigger I can possibly go, but that original sign was pretty darn big. And it would be pretty awesome to have one monstrous section to go right in the middle. I don't know which side I like better, the simplicity of the Imperium or the craziness of the Chaos. I do have more Imperium factions, so I suppose that I should like the Imperium more. But the pointiness and the spikiness and the bloodiness of the Chaos has really drawn me in. All of this terrain is available to our Patreon supporters for the month of June, and you can also find our tribes over on my mini factory. Thanks for watching.